Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 38th favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West, here for another episode of TMG Takes the Field, the weekly show where we talk about both NFL and college football. You need to go to bed. I'm in the middle of something. You can't be on here. Sorry about that little interruption. But again, like normal, we're going to start off by talking about college football. The wonderful week that was, and the wonderful week that will be. So we did have a lot of fun, exciting matchups that happened last week. Two Friday games. We had Oregon, the number 2 seed, Saturday. Probably not the number 2 seed now. We'll talk about that in a second. Oregon taking on Purdue, 135 to nothing. BYU, huge surprise in Big 12 play, beating Oklahoma State. Huge upset in Big 12 play, 38-35. And then for the Saturday games, number 6 Miami beat Louisville, number 10 Clemson beat Virginia, 16 Indiana. Surprise there too. Mollywopped, I think that's a word. Nebraska 56-7. Missouri beat Auburn. Army beat East Carolina. Notre Dame beat Georgia. Navy beat Charlotte. Texas A&M beat Mississippi State. LSU beat Arkansas. Iowa State beat UCF. Kansas State beat West Virginia, and SMU beat Stanford. So no upsets as far as an unranked team beating a ranked team. Every match where a ranked team played an unranked team, the ranked team won. But that being said, we did have 3 matchups in which 2 ranked teams played each other, and only one, the higher ranked team, won. We had Michigan, the number 24 seed, traveling to Illinois, the 22 seed. Illinois was victorious 21-7. Alabama, the number 7 seed, traveling to Knoxville to take on the number 11 seed Tennessee. And Alabama can't win in the state of Tennessee right now. Tennessee being victorious 24-17. So any Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders out there, you have a chance against Well, you're not playing Alabama this year, so you don't have a chance. But man, bet y'all are really upset y'all didn't play Alabama this year at home. Had it have been in Alabama, y'all got crushed. And then we did have the big matchup. The number 1 seed Texas playing the number 5 seed Georgia in Austin. Georgia came out very strong. Texas tried to come back but could not. Georgia getting the victory 30-15, which huge thing happened in this game. There was a moment where the cameras turned to the Georgia bench, and one of the head coaches had a clipboard, and on the back of the clipboard it said, "Top 10 things to do in Abilene." And you might be saying to yourself, why is that big? Why is that big? Well, I'm from Abilene. So my Facebook wall exploded that night because so many people were surprised. I'm more surprised that they found 10 things to do in Abilene. If you're from Abilene or have been to Abilene, you know why that's the case. So that was really fun. But obviously, the big controversy that happened. Very, very bad call. They called Texas defender for a pass interference. Not pass interference. He ended up intercepting the ball, getting to like the 5-yard line, almost scoring. They called it back. Fans were so outraged that they started throwing trash on the field. They had to clean up the trash, and in that process, the refs talked it over and decided that it wasn't a penalty, and they reversed the call. So a lot of controversy about that. I, for one, am very intrigued just as far as what college football has been doing this year, as far as changing rules in the middle of the season. The Oregon-Ohio State game, there was an instance where Oregon purposely had 12 players on the field so they could get a penalty and stop the clock. And that's something that was changed the very next week. They kind of changed that rule so that advantage was no longer a thing. So I'm very intrigued to see if anything happens this week. I know I listen to Joel Klatt quite a bit, and he is wanting to add a super review or a super challenge. It's where you can challenge one thing that's technically not challengeable. It's like a penalty would be one. I don't know if we'll go that far, but definitely interested to see maybe if we go the route that the NFL had that one season, where you can start challenging pass interferences, or if there's a way to kind of challenge penalties or to kind of get them reviewed if it's something egregiously wrong like that. I'd be kind of interested to see what would happen um, if there was a little bit more contact, because obviously you had the receiver and the cornerback fighting each other for those first couple of yards, which is perfectly legal. There was that separation. The Georgia receiver went right. The Texas defender went left. And when Carson Beck threw the ball, he threw it to the Texas defender. So again, no actual pass interference. It was a horrible call. Um, but I'm wondering if there was maybe a little bit more contact where the call was a little closer, if maybe that play doesn't get reversed. I'm kind of wondering if maybe they realize, hey, that was so bad that we do need to fix that. And that's the case. There's definitely some stuff that we will never know the actual reasoning behind it. Um, but but definitely set a precedent. Um, I feel like we will see at least three more times this year trash being thrown on the field for a bad call, and kind of just seeing what's going to happen. This also, this game did have major implications as far as overall rankings, and then also the battle for the SEC. So I do want to go over. I kind of want to give every conference the top three, um, or every major conference. Like we're not going to talk about the American Conference, but at least the major conferences kind of give the top couple, see what that championship game is looking like because we are starting to get to that halfway point in the season. I know it's hard to believe that that is the case. So alphabetically, we start with the ACC. Again, most conferences don't have actual divisions anymore, so they are taking the top two teams. Right now, we have four teams who are undefeated in ACC play. Clemson, Miami, Southern Methodist, and Pittsburgh all have yet to lose in conference play. Um, Duke, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech currently with one loss in conference play. So that's going to be a very fun conference to look at. The ACC is always one of those where it's never an elite conference, but almost every team is competitive, except for Florida State. Florida State's horrible. So other than Florida State, every other team's competitive, and it's going to be a very fun, exciting conference to keep a lookout. Miami, obviously with Cam Ward, we'll talk about him very, very soon. Um, just with how well he has been doing, and how he has really helped that team turn around. Because Miami used to be a powerhouse, and then for the last 10, 15 years, hasn't done anything in any college football. They've been hyped for a little bit, but they very very quickly fall off the ladder and just kind of go into obscurity. So interested to see if that is not the case this year. And also with Clemson, they looked really bad in their first game against Georgia, turned around and they've been playing lights out since. So ACC is gonna be very fun to watch. Next, we go to the Big 12. Currently, two teams are undefeated: BYU and Iowa State. Then we have Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, and Colorado, all with one loss. And again, the biggest standout for me in the Big 12, a lot of people thought that they would win it all. Oklahoma State is 3-4 this year, all four losses coming in conference play. So they're not going to be in the championship game. They're well outside of the playoffs. And it's very weird to say that because Oklahoma State's been a powerhouse in the Big 12 for years. Um, my personal pick to win it was Utah. They're currently 1-3 in conference play, so very, very unlikely they make it. They have to win out. They have to hope for a lot of teams to lose. But hey, They were Pac-12 champions with 3 losses, so crazier things happen. Next, we have the Big Ten. So far, Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State are all undefeated in conference play. Illinois, Wisconsin, and Ohio State all with 1 loss. Um, the Big Ten's competitive this year. The Big Ten has 5 ranked teams. Um, this was definitely a huge talking point with the addition of Oregon, Washington, USC, and USC has not been doing well. They're 1-4 in conference play. So that just shows how competitive the Big Ten is. I almost call it the Pac-12. The Big Ten, super competitive this year. Again, big standout right there is Indiana. Um, Nobody really expected them to be ranked, let alone have a shot at the championship right now. Next, we're going to move on to the SEC. Texas A&M and LSU are both undefeated. Then we have Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, and Vanderbilt, all with 1 loss. Alabama currently at 2-2 in conference play. They're on the outside looking in. They can lose, they can win out and miss the conference championship. They can win out and miss the college playoffs. That would be crazy. 2-loss Alabama team, first year with 12 teams in the playoff, and they miss it somehow. I think if they win out, they'll make it, but that's just crazy to think about. Alabama might not be in the playoffs this year. Um, but no, biggest standouts Tennessee with that rookie freshman. They're called freshmen in college. The freshman quarterback, Nico Yamayeva. They've been playing very well this year. Obviously, they just beat Alabama and then Vanderbilt. I was this close to betting on Vanderbilt to cover the spread when they played Alabama because they had been a lot better. Um, they've been a lot more tough and aggressive than they've been any year. Um, and so that's another surprise. And they're ranked. We'll talk about that here in a second. First time ever, and as far as I can remember, that Vanderbilt's ranked. All right. I think that's all of the major conferences. This whole yeah, that's it as far as major conferences go. The whole Pac-12 only having 2 teams is just throwing me off now. Because since when does the Pac-12 only have 2 teams? It's only going to be a year because next year they'll have more. They're getting almost every state school to join them. So now I'm going to go over the rankings as they are right now. So we did have some change. Obviously, when the number 1 seed loses, they fall. Most every other team moves up. Oregon is now our number 1 seed. Georgia moved up to number 2. Penn State's at 3. Ohio State's at 4. Texas is at 5. Miami's at 6. Tennessee's at 7. LSU's at 8. Clemson's at 9. Iowa State's at 10. BYU's at 11. Notre Dame's at 12. Indiana's at 13. Texas A&M's at 14. Alabama's at 15. Kansas State's at 16. Boise State's at 17. Ole Miss is at 18. Pittsburgh's at 19. Illinois is at 20. Missouri's at 21. SMU at 22. Army 23. Navy 24. And Vanderbilt is 25. Vanderbilt unranked. They are ranked this week. Michigan did drop out of the rankings. Another crazy story is we have a chance to watch Army Navy play like 3 times this year, maybe, because they could very well play in the American Championship game, and then they have the Army Navy game, and then if both teams go undefeated up until the conference championship, there's very much a possibility that they both make the playoffs, and we could see them play again. That's crazy to think about. College football is a very almost as much parity as the NFL is right now. All right, so our games next week, week 9, we have a Thursday game we're going to talk about. Pittsburgh is taking on Syracuse in Pittsburgh. Friday, we have Boise State's traveling to Vegas to take on UNLV. And then our Saturday games, Nebraska's or Ohio State's taking on Nebraska. I would say the ranked team first. Indiana's taking on Washington. Ole Miss is taking on Oklahoma. BYU's taking on Central Florida. Miami's taking on Florida State. Penn State's taking on Wisconsin. Kansas State's taking on Kansas. SMU's taking on Duke. I did see something really funny with the Miami Florida State game. It was like Sunday night. A lot of betting sites had Miami as 1 point favorites. Or I think they were negative. They were +1. So Vegas had them as underdogs. And so I had somebody say, somebody posted it. I was like, it's now my chance to be a millionaire. And I was like, oh, I have to hop on that real quick because there's no way Miami loses to Florida State. And then they changed the favorites. Miami is a 21-point favorite now, so they have to win by 3 scores in order for that bet to hit. So I missed out barely. We do have quite a bit of ranked versus ranked matchups. Notre Dame is taking on Navy. Illinois is taking on Oregon. Missouri is taking on Alabama. Texas is taking on Vanderbilt. And LSU is taking on Texas A&M. So a lot of fun games this week, which anytime college football is playing, there's going to be a lot of fun games going on. Now let me pull up what our Heisman odds are. We have had a little bit of movement there. I normally pull it up on Fox. I normally take a screenshot of it, but I was just so busy doing other stuff today that I forgot to take a screenshot of it. Can I find it real quick? Probably not. I can never find it really quick. But it's okay that I'm taking a little bit of time because we're missing our friend. Also, for some reason, anytime I pull up an article on Fox's app, a pop-up pops up and just says about dot blank. So I have to exit out of that to get to it. So Fox app, fix yourself. All right. So we have had a little bit of movement as far as the Heisman favorites go. Ashton Genty, running back for Boise State, is still your favorite to win the Heisman this year, at +220 to win it. But right behind him, Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami, putting Miami back on the map, is at +260. With odds, whenever you see a negative odd, that is how much money you have to bet to make $100. So a lot of times you'll see like -110, especially if you bet like the spreads. A lot of times both spreads will be -110, -105, or 115, something like that. When that's the case, that's usually what's probably going to happen. Coin flip, basically. If it's negative odds, it's more than likely to happen. If it's positive odds, that's if you bet $100, that's how much you make. So it's a lot less likely to happen. So right now, Ashton Genty at +220. So right now, if you were to bet on him to win it all, at +220, you would bet $100, you would make $220. And I have to mute myself just for a second. All right, sorry about that. My partner in crime is not here yet, and he just sent me a message as far as why he's not here. So he'll be here in a second. Don't worry, guys. All right. So again, Cam Ward right now is our second favorite to win at +260. And the reason why you'll see your favorite is technically at positive odds like that, because we're still kind of in the beginning parts of the season, and he's not he's not like the odds on favorite. So like with offensive rookie of the year last year, great example. Um at the beginning of the season, a lot of people picked Bryce Young because he's the number one overall seed. It makes perfect sense. Trying to remember, Jackson Smith and Jigba might have been in the conversation. And so towards the beginning part of that season, most everybody was at that plus whatever number, just because of the odds. There's so many people in that conversation. And about week 13, week 12, CJ Stroud had just been playing so good that his odds moved to negative 1,000. So it's like he's going to win it. If he doesn't win it, it's going to be like a catastrophic end to the season. Spoiler alert, he did in fact win it. So there's also the weird thing with Ashton Genty, because he's with Boise State, and not playing a lot of big schools, we might not see him jump up that much, even if he's playing great. But then you have Cam Ward, who's playing a lot of really good schools. Dylan Gabriel, who we'll talk about in a second, playing really tough schools. If they keep performing very well, their stock will rise and uh, they might become favorites just because the quality of opponents they're playing is a little bit better. Give me 2 seconds. So speaking of Dylan Gabriel, right now he is at plus 400. So he is the third favorite. And really, that's kind of where our Heisman race is. At fourth, we have Cade Klubnik, quarterback for Clemson, but he's at plus 1,600. So he has to ball. Obviously, his game against Georgia really hurt him. He has to ball out. The other three have to really quit playing well, and then maybe his stock will rise. And then even further back, we have Carson Beck, quarterback for Georgia, at plus 2,500. I was surprised to see his odds that high. He had like 3 or 4 interceptions against Texas. He had like 3 against Alabama. So he has definitely not been playing to the expectation that he's been wanting to, as far as being a Heisman favorite. He still might be one of the top picks. Obviously, there are a lot of really good quarterbacks who are in the conversation to join the NFL next year. Um, and so if that's the case, he still has that chance of going really high too. Travis Hunter still kind of there at plus 2,800. Jalen Milrow at plus 3,000. And unfortunately, Quinn Ewers is not on this list. But last time I checked, he was at like plus 3,200. So the odds are very much against him. He did have a very rough start to the game against Florida or against Georgia. Kind of settled in that second half, but not enough to get the win. So the Heisman race is we're starting to see our 3 favorites. They usually have the 3 go on to New York where there is that conversation. But here probably in like two weeks we'll have a clear cut on who we think is going to win it all. Um, so next we're going to move on to the NFL. Just to let everyone know, Tato's not here yet. Tato, my partner in crime, he will be here very soon. But we'll go ahead and start talking about the NFL, kind of what our last week was. I'll ask if he has anything that he wants to talk about as far as last week goes. We'll have some big news. Nothing major as far as hirings, firings, or trades go. But we do have some big news involving a lot of injuries, unfortunately. And then one kind of free agency news that we'll talk about. And again, that'll be here in a second. So I will say Tato and I had very similar weeks. I think we had 2 differences as far as the overall week went. He got 1 right, I got 1 right. So we finished with the exact same record. There's no changing to it at all. But we have Thursday night, the Broncos traveling to New Orleans, winning 33-10 in a Sean Payton revenge game. Um, this was one Tato got right that I didn't. But this was very much a kicker's dream. I believe there was what one, two, three, four, five field goals. I believe not a lot of actual scoring. Biggest offense that we saw was Javonte Williams for Denver, 88 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Um, Spencer Rattler didn't throw any interceptions. Bo Nix didn't throw any interceptions, but it was getting to the point where the blowout was so bad. New Orleans put in their second string, including which was quarterback Jake Hayner, who did throw a touchdown kind of with a minute and a half left in the game. So not enough to spark a comeback by any means. But not a whole lot of fun, exciting stuff happened in that game. It's kind of crazy how New Orleans started out as a dominant team, destroying the Panthers, which we know is not that big of a deal. But then destroying the Cowboys, which is a huge deal. They've lost 5 games since then. So it's obviously with Derek Carr going out, that's going to be a huge loss. Um, but definitely a huge fall from grace, more than we were expecting. Um, but now we move on to Sunday. So our first game that we're going to talk about is the Eagles traveling to MetLife to take on the Giants. Eagles destroyed 28-3. This was a great performance, mainly for Saquon Barkley. 176 yards, 1 touchdown. Jalen Hurts had about 2 rushes for touchdowns. They were both brotherly shots, but he did have like 30 yards rushing, I believe. Um, AJ Brown with a touchdown pass. This is the second game in a row that Philadelphia has not allowed an offensive touchdown. When they played the Browns last week, the 1 touchdown was on a field goal block. And then this is also, I want to say it's like close to 500 days since Daniel Jones has scored a touchdown in MetLife. Obviously, he was injured for most of last year, so it's like when you hear that number, it's very shocking. But then once you think about it, it's like, oh, it's actually not as shocking as what you would expect. But no, Philadelphia looked great. They ran the ball, which they had a lot of injuries on the line too. So I was really surprised to see how well they played. I was definitely very afraid of that game. Um, and then whenever it got to about halfway through the second quarter, when we finally got that first touchdown, I was finally able to breathe a little bit. But I was still kind of like, Giants can come back. And then we scored again and again and again. And I quickly quit being nervous about it. Um, I don't know. I don't know why I talked about that game first, because we had a London game that happened before that. But I just really want to like talking about the Eagles. We did have a game in London. The Jaguars taking on the Patriots. Jaguars won 32-16. Trevor Lawrence, 193 yards and a touchdown. Brian Thomas accounted for 89 of those yards, getting that 1 touchdown. And Tank Bigsby, this was definitely nobody expected to be hearing his name a lot, especially with Travis Etienne. But this is like his third straight week of over 100 yards rushing, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's just gone off. Drake May did look pretty decent, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then 18 yards rushing. He was the Patriots' leading rusher. So Patriots, if you're going to have 18 yards as your leading rusher, you need to fix that. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson was out, so he was definitely a big miss on for that team. Now we can talk about the 1 o'clock games. I missed that. I mixed that up. It's because I'm on ESPN. I have the Eagles as my favorites, so I get notifications about them. So they're always the very first one. That's also why they're always the first team I talk about when they play 1 o'clock games, because they are first on the list. Kind of just a little peek behind the curtain there. All right, next we have the Titans traveling to Buffalo, taking on the Bills. Um, Came out swinging. They were up 10-0. But the Bills came back, scoring 34 unanswered points, winning 34-10. Josh Allen, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those going to his new friend Amari Cooper. And then with rushing, Ray Davis, their leading rusher, 41 yards and a touchdown. James Cook had 32 yards and a touchdown. So the Bills are, I still don't know if I can trust them, but they're kind of starting to look a little dangerous. Um, Next, we have the Texans traveling to Lambeau to take on the Packers. And this is exactly what Tato and I both predicted. Uh, Good matchup, hard hitting matchup. Um, but because it's in Lambeau, the Packers are going to get the win. That's exactly what happened. Um, 45-yard field goal at the end of the game to get the lead 24-22. CJ Stroud did not look good in this game. 86 yards, no touchdowns. But Joe Mixon is definitely that workhorse. 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jordan Love, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw 2 interceptions. Um, but one of those touchdowns came to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, this was his first receiving touchdown in his career. So that was very, very exciting to see, be a part of, because I watch Red Zone. I see almost every touchdown. But again, it's exactly what we said. Going to be close, going to be fun, but because it's in Lambeau, Stroud wasn't going to play as good as he usually does, and that's exactly what happened. Next, we have a game that we were wrong. The Lions traveling to Minnesota. I felt that the Lions defense was going to hurt a little bit with their loss to Aiden Hutchinson. Um, and they did not look like they were missing their star defensive player. So there goes our pick of Aiden Hutchinson winning defensive player of the year. It's not going to happen. Getting an interception, getting quite a bit of, I believe there's a couple fumble recoveries too. Um, and then the Sonic matchup, Sonic and Knuckles of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Gibbs getting 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery getting 31 yards was just too much for the Vikings. Jared Goff also had a decent game, 280 yards with a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 112 yards and a touchdown. I will say, though, I was very surprised with the Vikings. I believe a lot of people are still in that phase of, we can't really trust the Vikings because we can't trust Sam Darnold. We're going to start seeing him look like a pumpkin. They were expecting this game to be that game. And that was not the case. 259 yards, 1 touchdown, did throw an interception, but he did lead them back. Got the game tied right at the end. And it wasn't until 15 seconds left. Great clock management by the Lions, getting the time down to as little left as they could, getting that field goal to end up winning the game. Because all Minnesota could do after that was just some crazy laterals, trying to make some magic happen that didn't. But I do say, I was still very impressed by the Vikings. Came out swinging, getting the first 10 points of the game. And then the Lions really dominated that second quarter. But the Vikings wouldn't go away. They kept fighting, ended up tying it up. I believe they overcame 2 11-point deficits. So while they lost, look out for the Vikings. They're the real deal this year. Next, we have the Seahawks traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. This was another game that Tato and I both got wrong. The Seahawks laid it on the Falcons 34-14. Geno Smith, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 69 yards and a touchdown. Kirk Cousins, anytime he tried to make magic happen, he did throw 2 interceptions today. So it was very much playing from behind, trying to make something out of nothing. When you're trying to make something out of nothing, you can't do that. It's physically impossible. This was also Michael Penix got his um made his NFL debut. Finally getting out there to play. Only threw one pass, did get 14 yards out of it though. And then they just ran a little bit more after that. So we did start seeing him. Maybe we start seeing a quarterback controversy in Atlanta. I don't think so. I don't think we'll see a controversy there. Um, all right. Next, we have the most uninteresting game of the week. I will say that with no hesitation whatsoever. The Bengals traveling to Cleveland. Bengals winning 21-14. Um, Not a lot of scoring in this game. Joe Burrow, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, 128 yards, did leave the game due to an injury. And then both Dorian Thompson Robson and Jameis Winston did get playing time. Jameis Winston did get a touchdown right towards the end of the game. I was kind of hoping we'd see a little bit of magic happen with Jameis in the game, but we did not. So I'll go ahead and bring him in because Tato's here. Tato, how's it
Hey,
going?
apologies. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. I appreciate you getting things done without me, though. Obviously, you don't really need me for this part. I kind of very rarely contribute anyway. So.
Yeah, I was about to.
But I will tag. I just got here, but I will tag on. I was surprised to see the DRT go in initially instead of Jameis. So I don't know what happened there. I didn't even actually find out that Jameis went in eventually until just right this second. I just remember hearing that it was Dorian going in, and I was like, "Huh, that's kind of a head scratcher on my part." So I didn't know if Jameis was sick or what was going on there. But
No, Dorian was the second string quarterback. His whole stat line was 11 for 24, 82 yards, and 2 interceptions. So the Bengals secondary can look good. They're not good, but they can look good. Um, so I have one more of the 1 o'clock games, Tato. We have the Colts beating the Dolphins 16-10. This wasn't an exciting game. This was this was definitely one of those. Um, if you were stuck watching this game, like it sucked, because there were so many other games out there to watch. But Thursday night, London game, and any of the 1 o'clock games. Was there anything you wanted to talk about?
no, I'm good. We can carry on.
All right. Next, we have the 4 o'clock games. The Commanders taking on the Panthers. The Commanders like very quickly lost Jaden Daniels. I think it was beginning of the second, or it might have still been in the first quarter. He did go out with a rib injury. Marcus Mariota coming in to save the day. I was kind of hoping there'd be some controversy. It was 10-0 at that time, but they really didn't need they didn't need Jaden Daniels. This offense is clicking. Putting up 30 more points on Carolina. Granted, it's Carolina, but then also only allowing 7 points. So Tato, is Jaden Daniels really that good, or is he just a system quarterback?
Yeah, I think Marcus Mariota is a pretty solid quarterback. He's been up and down, obviously, in his career in the NFL. But I think he's a really solid number two. Nah, any which way. I would love to see, obviously, the Commanders coming up against the Bears. So we'll get to that. Everyone like the game got flexed to 3:30 or to 3:25 because it was supposed to be Jaden versus Caleb, and
Mhm.
that didn't necessarily shake out the way, or it might not necessarily shake out.
Yeah.
Reports were looking positive kind of earlier initially, but I believe today it came out that it's looking maybe not so good on the Jaden front. I think, yeah, but I do think the Washington offense is just solid. But I do think Jaden is still better than Marcus Mariota. So I think it's little A, little B.
I have no idea what you're saying. My wife is trying to sign language me something. I don't know what you're
Oh,
saying.
kind of.
As of right now, Jane Daniels is listed day to day. So we will see if he comes back next week. If he doesn't, next game we have the Raiders taking on the Rams. Rams winning 20-15. So this was kind of another one of those where it wasn't that exciting, but it was kind of exciting. Um, Rams have been beat up all year. They might have some hope next week that we'll talk about soon. But Tato, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, a little Matt Stafford action, getting it done there, kind of, I think, like we said it would. Um, so it should be pretty. Yeah, Rams. Maybe we'll get some action back. Good team, super beat up, obviously.
Yep.
Raiders are, yeah, they. I think they might be sellers, and I hope that there's a certain way that I'm hoping that goes, and a certain way I'm hoping it doesn't go.
I'm kind of hoping for the way you hope it doesn't go, because I'm really thinking that that is going to happen. But we'll definitely see there. We'll talk about some good news for the Rams here in a little bit. But yeah, no, definitely super beat up. Definitely struggling. We'll see if they can turn it around. I did see a report that look for the Giants to pick up Matt Stafford. Um, I'm like that. There's no way that's gonna happen.
I would agree with you. I don't think there's any chance of that going down that way. Sorry, Antonio. I love you, buddy.
It would be funny if it happened, but there's no way that happens. All right, the last of the 4:30 games, the Chiefs traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. And this was a really ugly game. Um, Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions, Brock Purdy threw 3. The really only saving grace was both teams have good defenses, and Kareem Hunt can run the ball, which he couldn't do for like the last 3 years. The Chiefs being victorious 28-18. But any thoughts on that one, Tato?
I did see Pat Mahomes take a gork to the throat and not get a flag for it, so that was
Mhm.
unique.
Uh, so did you watch that video that I sent to the There Will Be Fantasy chats?
Probably.
I was about to say the second I posted it, Jay posted another video. So I found one because there's all this AI going on, of them like
Yeah,
creating these interviews of this was ridiculous, blah blah blah. I watched when it was um the next Chiefs game, and there was an offsides on the Chiefs, and the ref says unsportsmanlike conduct. Saying negative words against Patrick Mahomes. All hell Patrick Mahomes.
yeah.
Uh,
Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs win by
21
50
points,
million.
21 points to the Chiefs. And then it was like a little bit later, breathing on Patrick Mahomes, penalty on the other team. 21 more points to Patrick Mahomes. All hell Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs automatically win the game. I will say
Facts there.
this was probably the best officiating we've seen with the Chiefs game. But again, he can play horrible like he did, and they still come up victorious. I'm still not quite ready to say three-peat, um, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Probably
I
going to
did,
win the division.
yeah, yeah. Especially after what happened Monday night, definitely they're going to win the division. Um, So I did see something. It was the last 10 years, what the last undefeated team was had done. Obviously, last year we had the Eagles and 49ers both being undefeated up until like week 5, I think. Um, we all know how the Eagles season ended, and then the 49ers losing in the Super Bowl. Year before that, the Eagles were the last undefeated team. They lost in the Super Bowl. It's just like following that, like couple teams made it to the Super Bowl, but most losing in the wild card of the playoffs. And there were a couple teams that didn't make the playoffs. So I'm kind of interested to see if we do see this again, or if Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things and they go 17-0 this year. It probably can happen. But next, we'll go ahead and talk about the Sunday night game. The Jets traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Tato, you were hoping for that magic that happens when you fire a coach and have an interim coach. You're like, this is the game that happens. Tato, this was not the game that happened.
It was not.
Pittsburgh was phenomenal. 37-15. Russell Wilson, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris, 102 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers doing Aaron Rodgers things through 2 interceptions. But Breece Hall had a really good game, 38 yards receiving and a touchdown, 103 yards receiving. So if you had him on fantasy, he performed for you. Unfortunately, nobody else on the Jets performed. Maybe next week they'll finally get that magic that normally happens when you fire your coach. But don't you remember how we were talking about this is Justin Fields' team?
Yeah.
This is not Justin Fields' team at all. There's like one thing I was noticing with those first couple weeks, that offense wasn't really doing anything. Kind of towards the end of his run, we started seeing Najee run a little bit more. He started getting some good passes, getting some touchdowns on there. But the offense was still very timid. They were very much being held together by their defense. This was not the case today. That offense was electric, or not today, but Sunday. That offense was electric. That offense was unstoppable. And that Jets defense is normally a pretty decent defense. So I'm very interested to see what Russell Wilson does here in the next couple of weeks. And we're all going to eat our words. Mike Tomlin's going to have a winning season this year. Any other thoughts on that one, Tato?
Yeah, shout out Mike Tomlin. Love that guy. Good to see him getting W's. I think Justin might have won that game either way. Possibly. Well, obviously you never know, but it's a bummer for Justin Fields, I feel like, because I mean, he was playing his best football. I think we can all agree on that. And his best apparently wasn't good enough for the Steelers for whatever reason. Like, I wouldn't have made the quarterback switch there. Justin was doing just fine. I don't know how much of it has to do with the conditional pick. If Justin plays more than half the snaps, the 6th rounder becomes a 4th rounder. So maybe they were just thinking, hey, if we can win with Russell and keep the get the 2 rounds more of your draft pick. I think that played a I think that plays a factor in it, because I don't know if they were just flat out thinking Russ is better than Justin, because I don't know. Obviously not in the room there in Pittsburgh, both super capable quarterbacks. So rough to say. Good luck to everyone going forward.
Yeah, and like you said, we don't see we're not in the room. We don't see what those practices are like. But at the beginning of the season, everything was pointing to Russ starting for the Steelers this year. He didn't really look all that good in preseason, but to be fair, most people don't look that good in preseason. And he was fighting some injury issues for the first couple of weeks, and so that's why Justin got the start. And so I know a lot of people say, rule of thumb is you can't lose your starting job due to an injury. And so I'm wondering if that was something too of, hey, now he's fully healthy. We've seen him actually get those practice reps with first team. And now we're ready to actually fully give him the reins. Thank you, Justin, for everything you did getting us to this spot. But now we're going to let Russ cook for his whole, $2 million that we paid him.
Yep. And maybe Justin, hopefully Justin played well enough to get a shot somewhere else if that was it in Pittsburgh.
And I'm about to say too, there's definitely a chance he gets traded here in the next couple weeks too. because there are some very needy quarterback needy
Cleveland.
teams
Yeah.
that
I
we'll
mean,
talk about here.
in the division is rough. So,
In
but
the division's rough, but
Cleveland's not
there's some in
QB.
the conference teams that we might see try to do something. But we do have the Monday night games to talk about. The Ravens traveling to Tampa Bay, victorious. Lamar Jackson is now like 28-1 against NFC teams, 41-31. That score is a lot closer than that game actually was. Um, Tampa Bay kind of came back in garbage time,
Garbage time,
trying
yeah.
to make a comeback. Really bit him in the butt right at the end that we'll talk about here pretty soon. Um, but yeah, uh, the Ravens looked great. Came out hard and heavy, looked unstoppable. And then the Buccaneers were able to just kind of throw some garbage time touchdowns on there. Baker Mayfield too is. Did you see he started like popping Zens randomly throughout the game?
Yeah,
Like,
I
oh
did
my
see that.
goodness. He threw for 370 yards. So like the dude has a cannon arm. And he will never let you like quit. He'll never let you quit. Which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing. But just the moxie on Baker. Um, Ravens are too good for him, but I think the Buccaneers are one of the top 5 teams in the NFC right now. Next,
When
we
their
have
receivers are healthy.
yes. Um, but speaking of a very exciting game for Monday night, that was the only exciting game Monday night. Unfortunately, there was a second one. The Chargers traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Um, the Chargers kicked 5 field goals to get their 15 points. The Chargers kicked 1 field goal, 2 touchdowns. Field goal right at the end of the game to get the win. Um, I love Jalen Rager. I'm a big TCU fan. I was optimistic about the Eagles drafting him. Hated the fact that they Justin Jefferson was picked right after him because we could have easily got him with the second pick. But just the whole getting a good reception and then fumbling on the 2 yard line. It's just like, come on, Jalen Rager, you're making TCU look bad. The biggest thing going against the Chargers, they weren't able to score a touchdown. Um, they had quite a bit of decent drives. Justin Herbert threw for 249 yards. Will Disley, Lad McConkey had some good games, but unable to actually get in the end zone. It's hard to win when you can't score a touchdown. That's exactly what happened here. Um, Kyler Murray wasn't that good either. 145 yards and a touchdown. That he threw to Greg Dortch. Did run for a touchdown. But James Conner's the really big key to victory here. 101 yards rushing, 51 receiving. He got him in the position to score, and then Kyler was able to take it from there. But Tato, any thoughts on that game?
No, nothing special there.
All right. So again, we do have some big news to kind of go over. Um, a lot of stuff that happened throughout those Sunday games, and then we'll go over our predictions. But biggest news that happened, I believe it was Saturday that this dropped. Hassan Reddick has agreed to a deal with the Jets, so he is returning to the team. I believe it was Monday, so he was unable to play Sunday night, but we should start seeing him play. Hopefully next week. I'm a big Hassan Reddick fan. I was really hoping he'd get traded. Uh, I was kind of hoping the Lions would try to make a play for him. I was really hoping that the Eagles would try to make a play for him. That would make no sense whatsoever, but it would be so funny. Um,
Yeah.
and who knows? He still might get traded. You never know with the NFL the way it is. But he is ending his holdout, and we will start seeing him play very, very soon. But we did have several injuries that happened. Um, several like major injuries. One of the biggest ones, Deshaun Watson. Uh, I hate him as a person, but he did rupture his Achilles.
Yeah.
He is going to be out for the season. No idea who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns. I would assume it's Jameis. I would hope it's Jameis, but you never know with the Browns. other funny thing about this is Kevin Stefanski kept saying Deshaun gives us the best chance to win. So he's gonna have to eat his words when they end up going on a massive win streak with Jameis Winston as their starting quarterback. It's like, oh, he doesn't give you the best chance of winning, apparently.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember we were talking about Aiden Hutchinson last week, and I didn't watch the injury, like out of respect and shit specifically. This
yeah,
one I definitely hit on repeat. Just
oh goodness. This one I haven't seen yet. Um, I saw the Godwin injury. I watched that a couple times, and that one's not bad. It's just when you look at it after the fact, it's like you kind of get a little sick to your stomach. Um, we'll go ahead and talk about that one next. Why not? The Buccaneers did lose both of their major receivers. Mike Evans, I believe, pulled his hamstring in that game. He is projected to be out 4 to 5 weeks. So they're hoping he comes back towards
week
what is
12
it?
ish, I read.
Yeah, right after bye week. They're hoping he comes back. Chris Godwin on that last garbage time drive did dislocate his ankle
Yeah.
um, on a play. However, he did get 6 receptions, which the over under was 5.5. So thank you for getting that last reception, Chris Godwin, because I might have had some money on that hit because of that. Um, so he did dislocate his ankle. He's done for the season. Um, and then Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb. So the Raiders didn't really have a lot of shots left, but they are without Aiden O'Connell. Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter again. They did sign Desmond Ritter, former Falcons quarterback, former Cardinals quarterback, now Raiders quarterback. So we'll see if that happens, or so we'll see if anything happens. And then Chiefs cornerback, I'm forgetting his name right now, broke his tibia and fibula. So it was rushed to surgery, very similar to the Aiden Hutchinson injury. So he was rushed to surgery. Um, but there's kind of some news, both with him and Aiden Hutchinson. Due to the timing of this injury, if either team makes the playoff, there's a shot that they play. Um, just depending on how rehab and all that goes. Um, there's a shot, but again, the teams have to make it to the Super Bowl. And obviously, if they make it that far, something's working for them. So who knows if they actually need that help, which you have Aiden Hutchinson. That's going to be a game changer right there. And then with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels injured his rib. Nothing official as far as what the injury was. But he is listed week to week. Couple more things. Cooper Cup was activated from injured reserve before Sunday's game. Right before the game started, he was listed as inactive, but he will play Thursday night. So watch for that. And then Puka Nakua is also expected to be making his return very, very soon. Um, and then this isn't major news, but Alvin Kamara did land a 2-year extension with the Saints. So there was very brief conversation about him being in trade rumors. I doubt that's going to be the case now as he signs this extension. But again, trade deadline is coming up, I believe, next week after is when the actual trade
Election day.
deadline. Yeah. Election day. Yep. Um, and so it is coming up very, very soon. Uh, so maybe we'll see some big names. We already saw two, Amari Cooper, who did have very positive influence on the game, and then Devontae Adams, who caught for 30 yards. So that's something, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll go ahead and pull out the doc. Like I was telling the fans at home, Tato, I have not told you yet. So we finished with the same exact record, 11-4. We had Thursday night and Sunday night different. You got Thursday night correct. I got Sunday night correct. So because of that, we did finish with the same. So so far I'm at 68 and 39. You're at 64 and 44. So I do still have that 4-game advantage. But we'll see. We'll see what changes happen with this week, with week 8. Starting off with Thursday night football. The Vikings are traveling to Los Angeles. Cooper Kupp is making his return, but the Vikings are 3-point favorites. I will go ahead and go first on this. Like I said earlier, Tata wasn't here for this. I'm under the mindset of the Vikings are for real. Um, they played the best defense. I will say one of the best defenses in the league right now. And while yes, they went down pretty early, they kept coming back. Just the moxie on that team. Sam Darnold played amazing, made a couple mistakes, but kept bringing them back, and they were tied with 19 seconds left on the clock. Um, I think the Vikings are for real. I think the NFC North is going to be a very fun and exciting conference to watch. Give me the Vikings.
Yeah, only thing that can stop the NFC North is the NFC North. I think that's pretty much what is happening here. Obviously, I think there's 6 losses in the division, and and 2 of them are because of losses to the division. At least, it's bananas. I haven't seen anything like it. And it's awesome and it sucks. I have the Vikings getting the dub here. Even I don't think the Rams are going to have quite enough juice to beat a chip on the shoulder Vikings team coming off a loss. The coaching is phenomenal here in Minnesota. It's bananas on the Flores. Just yeah, it's bananas.
Yeah. All right. So next we're going to travel to Sunday. No early games. No out of country. I believe the Germany games in a couple weeks. I can't remember exactly what week it is, but everything's going to be in the States this week. So our first of the 1:00 games, the Eagles are traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. As of right now, the Bengals are 2.5-point favorites. So it is essentially a pick 'em. But Tato, we're gonna have you go first on this one.
All righty. This is an interesting one because the Bengals are favorites, but that's not what is going on in the zeitgeist of the football world. I think most talking heads have the Eagles getting the W here. So I'm gonna go reverse psychology, and I'm gonna take the Bengals on this one. Like getting with those points. Obviously, not that we take points and shit, but I've got the Bengals getting the dub here.
Maybe next year we'll start playing around with the spread and doing that. That would go horrible. We'll learn very quickly why I usually don't bet after week 10 because I have no more money to bet. But no, the Bengals are 2.5-point favorites. They're home, so being home, you automatically get 3 points in your favor. So technically, they're not favorites. I'd be interested to see if Dallas Goedert is able to come back because Jalen Hurts just plays so much better with Dallas Goedert. One thing I will say too is our line was tremendous without Jordan Mailata against the Giants, and the Giants have a good defensive line too. The fact that Barkley was able to punch through like 4 rushes of over 30 yards I was very surprised by that. The Bengals do not have that good of a defense. They have a horrendous secondary unless they're playing the Browns. One thing to look at, the Eagles have not allowed a touchdown, have not allowed an offensive touchdown in the last 2 games. Jalen Hurts has not committed a turnover in the last 2 games. So while they didn't have as an exciting game against the Browns, they've been playing a lot better since their bye week. And I do think that they do keep on rolling. Give me the Eagles. Next, we have the Jets traveling to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Jets are 7-point favorites. So you know how Tater, you know how we were talking about usually whenever you fire a coach, there's magic that first week. And then you kind of die down from there.
Yeah.
This is the week we get the magic because they're playing the Jets. Um, Aaron Rodgers said earlier today, I don't remember if it was on Pat McAfee or if it was just an interview. He said the Jets are playing angry right now and they just need to kind of calm down a little bit, just have fun. This is the game where they have fun because they're playing the Patriots. But Taylor, who's your pick on this?
Yeah, I kind of went. I went on that same line as you. Like third time's a charm, right? I mean, we're both on it. Like what? They couldn't do it with either of us, but with both of us, they got to get it done, right?
That's exactly how it goes. All right. Next game we have the Packers traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Packers are 4.5-point favorites, and Doug Peterson is still the coach of the Jaguars, regardless of what any of our thoughts have been. So, Tato, it's your turn to go first on this one.
I got the Packers here. Like I said, the only people that can beat the NFC North are the NFC North. Unfortunately, there is no North on North crime going on this week, so the Packers, I think, will get that W.
All right. I'm a little intrigued by this one because the Jaguars have been playing a little bit better, especially with Tank Bigsby at their rusher. I believe this is his three straight games over 100 yards. So I think this game will be close, a lot closer than most people are thinking it's going to be. Just because the Packers don't really defend the run that well. So if Bigsby has the green light of being the starting running back that game, look for him to go off again. If it's ETN, I don't know how that's going to go. I imagine they'll kind of do 50-50. So it'll still be a big day for Bigsby. But again, I do think even the Packers can make mistakes but still get the win out. Just like what we saw against the Texans. Jordan Love threw for 2 interceptions, but they still got the win. I think Jordan Love's going to have a pretty messy game. I think that defense going to have a messy game, but I do still think that the Packers get the win out of Jacksonville. Next, we have the Titans traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. If the Lions defense kind of slowed down a little bit with that Hutchinson injury, I would kind of think this is a game, but that Lions defense was electric. Right now, Detroit's 11-point favorites. I do not see a world where Tennessee wins. I don't see a world where Tennessee keeps it close. I have the Lions winning big.
All North all the time. I'm with you.
All right. Next, we have the Falcons traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Right now, Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. Tato, it's your turn on this one.
Falcons get it done. I think this might have been a close, this would be a close matchup with both the receivers healthy, but losing both of those receivers is too much for Tampa Bay. I think Falcons get it done.
I'm about to say if they had one of those receivers, this would be a different game. But unfortunately, they are missing both Godwin and Evans. Kate Otten
is nasty.
Yeah, Kate Otten's still a good pick. They have the rookie McMillan who has been playing decent. But when you lose your 2 weapons like that, I don't see how they can come back from that. So it is going to be a couple weeks of just bad losses for the Buccaneers. It starts off with this week. Falcons getting the dub here. Next, we have the Cardinals traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Dolphins are 3-point favorites for whatever reason. Tua should be coming off of IR pretty soon. Um, but still no telling when he will actually play. So I don't think he will play in this game. And without Tua, the Dolphins are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Um, Arizona, well, yes, they haven't been playing well. They have some good moments, and I think this is going to be a Marvin Harrison Jr. revenge game from a really bad performance last week. James Conner is going to go off because that's what James Conner does. I have the Cardinals winning.
Well, I had thought Tua was going to come back, so I wrote the Dolphins, and I'm going to stick to it either which way. It's what I wrote. It's fucking on the ledger. So if the Tua or no Tua, man, I hope they get it done.
I'm gonna see if I can find anything real quick. Um,
Yeah, maybe I just misread the him being activated as him being ready to go this week.
yeah, he could return. Um, I know this is where he can be activated from IR. Um, and so I don't know. I don't think he's actually quite cleared concussion
He
protocol.
still has to clear the protocol.
Yeah, he hasn't cleared protocol yet. So that's one big thing. To is he hasn't cleared protocol, so obviously he can't return until after that's done. But again, that game is Sunday and it is Tuesday, so there's still a lot of week left. He could very easily get the go ahead Friday night. There's still a couple days in, and who knows? He might be done for the season. We do not know. Very surprised the Dolphins. Well, yes, they signed Travis Huntley, didn't make any moves for a quarterback in the past couple weeks to kind of help with their loss there. But I'm not the GM. All right, next game we have the Ravens traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Ravens are 9-point favorites. Tato, you're going first on this one.
Yeah, the Ravens being single-digit favorites seems too little to me. I think the Ravens are going to run roughshod all over the Browns here. Who knows what they're doing at quarterback, and the Ravens are great. So Browns bad, Ravens good, and missing quarterback. Yeah, a bit of a disaster.
See, the downside is whoever they have start at quarterback has to play their first game against the Ravens, one of the best defenses in football right now. And the Browns defense has a lot of holes too, is struggling to stop most offenses. And you have one of the best quarterbacks playing right now, both with the dual threat, one of the best running backs playing right now, and a decent receiving room too. I think the 9 points is crazy because it should be more like the Detroit Lions, where it is a double digit favorite. I think the Ravens win, and I think the Ravens win big. Nope, that was the game we just talked about. Last of the 1 o'clock games, we have the Colts traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Right now, the Texans are 6-point favorites. Jonathan Taylor might be making his return for this game. If he does, I don't think it changes anything because when the Texans have Joe Mixon, the Texans are scary. They're playing in Houston. I have the Texans winning, and I think the Texans win pretty big. They're 6-point favorites. Yeah, they win by 2 possessions.
Yeah, I don't care if the Colts bring in Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I don't know what that means. Texans.
So Jonathan Taylor Thomas was an actor from the early 90s. Just kidding.
You're not. That was actually 100% accurate.
I did have a thought, though. I haven't actually looked at anything yet, but the Colts have only had 1 o'clock games so far this season. Do they have any like primetime game or anything that's not 1 o'clock? I'll have to check that later because I don't think that they do. But the first of the 4 o'clock
Isn't
games,
that there when you need him?
I know, right? Have you seen, um, there's a Colts super fan, who he sings, there's a Christian song, um, I can't think of the name of it, but he has a parody for the Colts, and it's, "This is our Colts, this is our team, we bleed blue," and he comes up with a song every week about the team that they're playing. Have you seen any of those videos?
I have not.
I have to send you one. For some reason, it popped up on my Facebook watch list last week. And then yesterday I'm just scrolling through Facebook watching those clips, and his one he came out for the game they just played, the Dolphins game came up, and I'm like, "Oh, that's that was a day too late." I sent both from to Matt because I'm like, "This is the funniest thing ever." I'll have to send it to you. It's hysterical. Um, but yeah, thank you for making me think of that. So first of the 4 o'clock games, we have the Saints taking on the Chargers. I believe you are first on this one, Tato. Real quick,
Yeah.
Chargers are 7-point favorites, which means they have to score a touchdown.
Oh no, not like that. Man, I'm second guessing myself now. I got the Chargers here. Saints obviously Super Bowl bound after week 2. Had a bit of a skid since then. Chargers, despite taking a bit of an ugly L last week, I think they bounce back. Yeah, Harbaugh's don't do a whole lot of losing twice in a row.
They don't. And one thing too, a lot of people forget is the Cardinals coach Jonathan Gannon is a defensive minded coach. They have a decent defense, especially with Buda Baker, and so they've actually been playing very well, a lot better than a lot of people talk about because they're the Cardinals. Um, and so I mean the fact that they were able to have a perfect bend don't break mentality, where hey, we'll let you get yards on us, we'll let you get close, but you're not scoring. You'll kick a field goal. Was very prevalent in that. Um, the Saints are another one of those just like kind of quiet, good defenses. But the only difference is the Cardinals have an offense. Right now, the Saints don't. Um, I have the Chargers winning this game too. Nothing much else to say on that. Next game we have the Bills traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Right now the Bills are 3-point favorites. I'm still kind of questionable on the Bills because we have not seen them really play good against good teams. But I did like the fact that Amari Cooper started out playing great, got that touchdown in, got like 40 yards. So he was very heavily used on the offense. So I do like this pickup. And with my biggest issue with them for the past several years is they haven't had a good run game. They have that run game right now with James Cook and Ray Davis. So I'm giving a slight edge to the Bills because I hate myself.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll agree with you there. I also have the Bills getting it done here, though I'll agree with you. We haven't seen them quite do it against good teams, but yeah, Bills better than I thought they were at the beginning of the season
Yeah.
still.
And I would say the Seahawks are technically, because of their record, a good team. So, all right, next we have Tato's favorite game of the week. The Bears are traveling to Maryland to take on the Commanders. Bears are 1.5 point favorites, so it is basically a pick 'em. But what are your thoughts on this one, Tato?
Yeah, this is where I think Jaden's not going to go because the Commanders did open as favorites, but today I think is when it switched to the Bears being one, either today or yesterday. Um, so I do believe that Vegas probably thinks that Jaden isn't going, and those guys are known to be pretty solid at their jobs when it comes down to it. So I'm inclined towards thinking that Jaden won't go, and the Bears should have no reason at all to lose to Marcus Mariota leading the Commanders. I would be picking the Bears even if it were Jaden for what it's worth, but I'm going Bears.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Regardless of quarterback for the Commanders, we saw Jaden kind of struggle against the Falcons, make just a couple bad plays, and the Ravens were able to capitalize because of it. I do like this Chicago Bears defense a lot, um, and their offense has been doing a lot better just throughout the year. I think if the Commanders are smart, they go ahead and sit Jaden. He can miss a game or two, make sure he's fully healthy. There has been the comparison to RG3, and we all know what happens with RG3's career. He played way too soon from a knee injury, re-hurt it, and never looked the same again. This is a very different front office for the Commanders that has seen this happen, can learn from those past mistakes. I do think the smart thing, let him sit for a week. He won't like it, he'll get over it. Um, but regardless of who that quarterback is, I like that Bears defense just too much. I have the Bears winning also. All right, next we have the Panthers traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos are 9-point favorites. Um, Tato, why are we constantly getting Panther games in the 4 o'clock window? Why don't they get the Colts treatment and only play at 1 o'clock?
I don't know, probably because they thought Bryce Young's second year might be a thing, but it isn't. So
That's true. That's true. So I'll go ahead and start off with this one. I don't like the Broncos, but they play well against bad teams. The Panthers are a very bad team. I have the Broncos winning this one.
Yup, like I've said several weeks ago, I'm not picking the Panthers. I don't think unless they go on a crazy streak and things change by December. And I'm not picking them this week. I'm not picking them next week. Yeah, it would definitely have to be some shenanigans. I think they're the worst team in football right now.
No, the worst team in football we're about to talk about. The Kansas City Chiefs are traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, who is probably the worst team in football right now. Right now, the Chiefs are 10-point favorites. Patrick Mahomes, I believe, has yet to lose in Vegas. This was I was looking at the schedule because I'm like, this is that sneaky game. No, Patrick Mahomes plays great in Vegas. Vegas sneaks up on the Chiefs in Kansas City. But they usually win and then go like a 2-year span of constant losing. And they won last year. So they're going to go through like 3 years of constant losing. I'm kind of stealing your thunder because you're supposed to go first, but I'm going to go first because I'm kind of talking a little bit about it. I was kind of hoping that this would be like a Chiefs trap game, but this is not going to be a Chiefs trap game. I do have the Chiefs winning pretty handily too. Tato, sorry for stealing your thunder. I'll make sure not to steal it for the next game.
You're good, Ski. Yeah, Chiefs. I have the Chiefs here. I mean, it's starting to have the markings of a trap game because we're all just giving it to them, but I think we're all just giving it to them for a logical reason. Raiders not looking good. Chiefs looking at, I mean, not like the best Chiefs, not the best the Chiefs have ever looked, but 90% Chiefs are still better than the vast majority of the league. Top tier uni matchup though. Always love the Chiefs versus the Raiders. It's always a pleasurable affair on the eyes.
All right. Next, we have the Sunday night game. We have the Cowboys coming off a bye week, traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. One injury we did forget to talk about, Brandon Ayuk suffering a torn ACL. So he is done for the season. He will not be there. But Ricky Pearsall, their receiver that they drafted in the first round, has been activated from IR. That's right. The man was shot in the chest and returned before Christian McCaffrey. He might play this week. I don't know if he's actually going to play or if he's just going to kind of suit up. Um, but they have a replacement kind of. Right now the 49ers are 4.5-point favorites. Tato, go ahead and go first on this one.
Yep. Despite obviously Ricky Pearsall hopefully comes out, does awesome. Shout out that guy. Christian McCaffrey, hope he gets well soon too. But I still got the Niners here, even though they are a little beat up. I think they're still just the better team and coming off that loss. They've got to fight back on their division and stuff.
Yes. Christian McCaffrey, I believe they're pushing for is like November 10th. So right before the trade deadlines when he's going to come back. Again, who knows on this? But I will say good news for the Cowboys. Both Micah Parsons and Deron Bland should be making their return this week. But regardless, the Cowboys they do suffer with teams that have good run games. And while yes, Christian McCaffrey has not played, the 49ers still have a great run game. They're going to be able to pound it down the throats, and they have a good defense, which Dallas doesn't play good against good defenses. So I have, for some reason, this is our Sunday night game. But regardless, the 49ers are going to be victorious. As we move on to Monday night, we have the Giants traveling to Pittsburgh, traveling to Acrisure. It's still weird to say, to take on the Steelers. Steelers are 6.5-point favorites. And then obviously Russell Wilson probably is going to make the start again because it just makes sense. He did phenomenal. I see no reason for him not to do phenomenal again. The Giants, the actual worst team in the NFL, the Steelers are going to steamroll them. And man, if only the Giants had a good run game. Like, imagine what a Giants team could do with a player like Saquon Barkley. But
That'd
we'll
be
never
crazy.
know. We'll never know. Steelers win big.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. I got the Steelers getting the dub as well. I think they've been playing too hot no matter who the quarterback is. TJ Watt's amazing. Tomlin knows how to coach football, and that's all we get for doubting him.
That is true. That is true.
Giants 31, in my opinion.
Yes. That has been the week of TMG Takes the Field, going over week 8, I believe, is the week that we are about to play. Yep, week 8. Going over our predictions. So we'll see it next week. We have one difference. So I will still be wearing the crown at the beginning of next week. We had two
Dolphins
differences.
And Bengals. I have
That's
Dolphins
right.
and Bengals.
You picked the Bengals to win for some reason. But I will still be holding the crown at the end of next week. Maybe we'll see Tato make up some ground. Maybe we'll see me dig that hole a little bit deeper on him. Maybe we'll see the exact same thing that happened last week where we get the exact same record because the Eagles are definitely going to win. And who knows, the Dolphins might pull it out. But definitely thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe if you have not. Find us on Facebook. Follow Lights Out Trivia. Tato's doing great things on there, even though I don't agree with the finals of a tournament that he is running. And I'm putting everything into question right now. But make sure to give them a like, follow, subscribe. Just make smart choices. Wash your hands. Or don't. I don't care. I'm not your dad. But I could be.